In this problem, we're being asked to find both the domain and the range of a function. The domain is all the values of x which you're allowed to plug into the function, or whatever variable you're talking about. And the range is all the values you can get out. The first function they ask us to consider here is f of x equals 7. This one's so silly that sometimes it's hard because it's simplicity. Right. No matter what x value I put in here, and any value of x would be allowed, I can always compute that I'm going to get a 7 out. Maybe graphing it is the way to see what's going on. For every value of x, I get a y value of 7. So horizontal line. So the domain is all reals. The range, well, what values can you get out? I can only get out the single number y equals 7, which we could write like that. Next, they want me to consider a simple rational function. The domain is all the x's that make sense. Well, I can't put in an x which would give me 0 down there. So we have to avoid x equals minus a half. All right, you can solve 2x plus 1 equals 0. So the domain range is often trickier, and it's certainly true here. Right? The range is all the values you can get out. Right? So what values y can I possibly get by plugging in a suitable x here? Right? Another way to think about it is if your function hits the value y, I ought to be able to find an x for which that's true. So what I'm going to do here is try and solve this for x. So given a y value here in the range, there ought to be an x which I can plug in on the right side here. So how do we solve for x? This is very similar to, or actually identical to, finding the inverse of a function. Right? I'm going to solve for x here by multiplying through. Remember, I'm solving for x. I'm going to get all the terms involving x on one side of the equation. Right, nothing fancy going on there, just we subtracted 5x from both sides, subtracted y from both sides. Now we factor out the x over here. And finally, we can solve for x and we get alright, so for every value of y that we can plug in here that makes sense, we get a corresponding value of x, which we could then take back here and plug into our function, right, to attain that value y in the range. Right. So it looks like every y is possible except one, and that would be the y that makes this 0. Right. So we have to say y is not equal to 5 halves. So the range would be minus infinity to 5 halves. Okay then.